Now, university students have faced considerable disruption this academic year. Coronavirus forced lessons online and, of course, students into lockdown. Now, after returning home for Christmas, many students are unable to get back to university, but they're still having to pay rent on the rooms that they aren't allowed to return to. We're joined now by David Atkins, a final year student at Birmingham University. David, lovely to have you on the programme this morning. Just tell us a little bit about how Covid-19 has been for you. You're studying at Birmingham University.
Yes, yeah. I haven't actually returned back to university since last March, actually. A long time. Many students are now frustrated, as you mentioned, that they can't return after the Christmas break, especially when they're still expected to pay the high amounts of tuition fees, over £9,000. Only students studying medicine, dentistry and teacher training are allowed to return. The rest of us aren't until mid-February. Being petitions started by university students encouraging people to reduce all the tuition fees from £9,000 to £3,000. And hopefully the government will listen to students and enforce a response because students have been hard hit during this pandemic.
Students have been incredibly hard hit, but you'll even concede yourself, I'm sure, so too have universities. And if the government isn't going to fill the funding gap between the 9,000 figure that you mentioned and the 3,000 figure that you mentioned, it will be them. And there will be universities who go out of business as a result of that.
Yes, yeah, and there's already financial pressure on universities. There's many university staff members have already been made redundant or that have lost their jobs during this crisis. But out of all the sectors in the economy, students are one of the sectors that haven't had financial compensation yet from the government, and many are now anxious. They've left their belongings still in their university cities because they didn't plan to stay at home for several months. So now many are very confused, anxious, and university is normally a time for enjoyment, for enthusiasm, from learning with other people, and now it's full of isolation, stress and anxiety.
David, I don't want to bang on about my own personal experiences at university too much, largely because there's plenty of stuff I did that's probably still legally actionable. But I had a great time when I was at university. How much of the complaints being made by students are about the teaching, and how much of it is about the fact that, frankly, from my perspective, you guys aren't getting a university life such as the rest of us experienced it?
I think the teaching is a massive part of it. Like speaking to many students, I'm the co-editor of the Birmingham tab, so I'm in connection with a lot of students at the minute, and many of them have received pre-recorded lectures throughout the pandemic, some of them only receiving 2 to 3 hours a week. And when you're expected to pay such a massive amount, it doesn't make any sense. And now students are campaigning for a no detriment policy, which will mean that they won't receive less than their working grade average, because students don't want to be disrupted with their results. There's been support for A-level students and GCSE students, so now it is right for universities to implement similar adjustments for their assessments and assignments.
Well, David, we wish you all the very best with everything going on at the University of Birmingham. Thanks for talking to us on the programme this morning.
Thank you.